second motive here, which is inescapable and it is uncomfortable to talk about, but it is the subtext behind a lot of this, is racial triumphalism, is hatred, is loathing for the people being replaced, which doesn't make intuitive sense. Why would you be mad at people you're replacing? Well, it's not clear. There are obviously spiritual components here too, which probably no mortal understands, but they're real, they're evident. What is this? Why would you do that? Why would you totally change the population of Australia, New Zealand? Why would you totally change Canada, Great Britain? Every English-speaking white country is becoming non-white at very high speed, faster than at any time probably since the Mongol invasions. So why would you do that? And what happens when you do that? Well, it's interesting, and this is a feature of human nature, and it's not just white, black, Hispanic, it's probably all races, but this is just true. Former majorities don't get treated well. But you really can't think of a case where a people has gone from majority to minority and then was treated well. It just kind of hasn't happened, including in this country, by the way. The American Indians, not treated well. Carted off to Oklahoma. Had to walk, actually. No carts. What happened to the white minority in Zimbabwe? They voluntarily relinquished power. Then they were killed. South Africa, they're in the process of being killed. They voluntarily relinquished power. They had nuclear weapons in 1994. Gave up the nuclear weapons, gave up power, went to majority rule system. It was a peaceful transition. De Klerk and Mandela, you remember the scenes from 1994. How'd that end? Well, it's not over yet, but the persecution of the people formerly in power began very, very quickly. How did it wind up for the Palestinians? As noted, they were 80% of Israel in 1947, 30% in 1948. How's it gone for them since? Not well. A lot have been killed. And it's complicated. They did bad things too. By the way, the Indians scalped a lot of people, and apartheid was bad. I mean, there are lots of lenses through which you could view this. But if you stand back, when you look at the attitude of people in the United States who are pushing for mass demographic change, and just to put a tighter focus on it, people who are pushing for an end to the white majority. Oh, it's white supremacist to say that. No, it's not. It's an acknowledgement of reality. And by the way, if you're looking for hatred, it's not a lot of white supremacists, well, even visible in public. Where are all these white supremacists we keep hearing about? But the people who are concerned about total demographic change don't seem like the hateful ones. It's the people espousing it who have a weird gleam in their eye and a detectable loathing in their voice. And very often, and this may be the darkest feature of it, it's not just hatred, it's self-hatred. And keep in mind that anyone who will hate himself will have no problem at all hating and hurting you. Here's Nancy Pelosi a few years ago. Keep in mind, she was the Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency. And this is part of a speech she gave on the House floor about demographic change. Watch this.
I'm reminded of my own grandson. He's Irish, English, whatever, and Italian-American. He's the mix. But he looks more like the other side of the family, shall we say. And when he had his sixth birthday, he had a very close friend whose name is Antonio, who's from Guatemala, and he has beautiful tan skin, beautiful brown eyes, and the rest. And this was such a proud day for me because when my grandson blew out the candles on his cake, they said, "Did you make a wish?" And he said, "Yes, I made a wish." He said, "Well, what is your wish?" He said, "I wish I had brown skin and brown eyes like Antonio." So beautiful. So beautiful. The beauty is in the mix. The face of the future for our country is all American, and that has many versions.
Imagine saying that. I mean, she's obviously a sub-genius, hasn't thought this through, but this is her own grandson. And he turns to her and says, "Grandma, I wish I wasn't born white. I wish I was born with different eye color, different skin tone. I wish it was something that I'm not. I wish God didn't make me this way." Imagine if your own grandson said that. It would break your heart. It would break your heart. And by the way, it's only on this topic, I wish I wasn't white, that's okay. If her grandson had said, Grandma, I wish I wasn't gay, she would have smacked him in the face with a ruler. You were born gay. Enjoy it. But when he says, I wish I wasn't white, she says, you're right. It's good to want to be Antonio and not be yourself, not be what God made you. Her own grandson. If she'd been black and gotten up and said, my grandson said to me, my granddaughter had a white Barbie doll and said, Grandma, I wish I had blonde hair and blue eyes. All of us would say, well, that's awful. God made you like this. It's sad to want to be something that you're not. You should be comfortable with the way you were made. Isn't that a kind of foundational modern American belief? Except when you're white, it's beautiful when you hate yourself. That's what she's saying. That's what she said on the House floor.
Like I said before, right? This whole thing about white people being replaced is such a smokescreen. It's really a smokescreen. Who is replacing the white people? You must ask yourself that question. Who? People talk about population size as if that is as important as economic size or wealth equality size. You must understand that the whites still control almost everything about the economy of the world. The IMF, the World Banks, they still control almost everything. America still controls almost everybody. So when you hear people like Tucker Carlson spend the whole day just whining about demographic change or population replacement or whatever, you need to ask yourself that who is really doing that to whom? That is what you ask yourself. And he mentioned about when majority becomes minority, they are being persecuted. And he used a case of South Africa about the apartheid. Remember, the apartheid was a very, 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 I must say, very wicked system. The white minority South African government did a lot of horrible things to the black majority. How can a minority be in charge? He is complaining that when population demographic will change, the majority or the blacks will become the superior and then take over the whites. But in the case of South Africa, the whites were the minority, but yet still they were able to control the blacks, which were the majority. And even though things have turned around, and even though people might think that apartheid has come to an end, so maybe injustice have come to an end, but as an African, I don't see it that way. Because if you go to South Africa now, this same moment, or don't even go there, just go online and research for yourself. You will realize that the white minority South Africans still controls almost every single thing as far as the economy is concerned of the country. They are still in charge of the economic of the country. The blacks only manage to take over the political power of the country. They did not take over the economic power of the country. And this is what I have always said about Nelson Mandela. Listen, he did what he thought was necessary, was great. I'll even go as far to say that he did all those things with his best intentions at heart. But the one thing I want to say about this that I think was a weakness on his part was the fact that even though he took over the political power of the country, he should have taken over the economic power of the country. He should have done what Mugabe did in Zimbabwe. You have to take the economy and the political power. That's how you build a country. If you are only in charge of the political power without the economic power, you won't go anywhere, because remember, he who has the money has the saying. He who has the money dictate what policy being put in place. That is it. That aside, let's go to Palestine. He said that before, the Palestinians were many than the Israelis, and so they were in charge. But right now, the Israelis are more than the Palestinians. Well, in this case, who are you to blame? Who are you to blame? Are you blaming the Palestinians or are you blaming the Israelis? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Israelis are at fault here. They are at fault. And they are being supported by your own government. So we can all sit here and whine and complain about things, but remember, no one is replacing anyone. Okay? And as we keep on blaming ourselves, us the illegal immigrant versus the citizen of the country, or blaming each other, those who are in charge, those who are making sure that these policies are being put in place, do not care or maybe are benefiting from it. The policy are in place because those in charge wanted it that way. They benefit from it. The billionaires, the upper 1%, they benefit from it. So rather than just saying that we are being replaced, or rather than just saying that our demographic is being tainted, our cities are being flooded, our job market is being saturated by people who do not have our values, people who do not want to assimilate, people who do not share our culture, our traditions. Rather than saying all this, you can turn your attention to your politicians, turn your attention to your special interest groups, turn your attention to your government. Let them do the right things. And I will say this one more time. All this hysteria, all this over exaggeration of things is not helping anyone. Nobody is getting replaced by anybody. None.